Hi, I'm Molly Ringwald, and you're going behind the looks with Who, What, Where. Okay, well, my character, this was in the 70s, I believe, or maybe early 80s. But she was supposed to be a real feminist, so all of my I had like the suspenders, I think I wore a tie. Yeah, I was supposed to be just sort of like a spunky little feminist. This was, of course, 16 Candles. This was supposed to be the bridesmaid's dress that was supposed to be pretty unattractive. I actually thought it was kind of pretty. It cracks me up though that we're doing the scene over like that I'm leaning over a cake with candles on it. I mean, that dress, I'm surprised that it didn't go up in flames. The overall look was just the costume designer and I went to like Melrose Boulevard, which is where I like to shop at that time. And, I just picked out stuff and tried them on. And, I have always really liked to wear hats. So that's why, and at the time, sort of those like fedoras or pork pie hats were really in. I was really into like Madness and, those bands. And so I feel like the clothes that I wore were everything was like something that I would have worn, except for the dress. The dress was supposed to be this one was one that I wasn't really supposed to like. The Breakfast Club. Yeah, so there was a costume designer on that film, Marilyn Vance, who I later worked with on Pretty in Pink. We had conversations about my costume in Los Angeles and the ideas around it. But then when it arrived in Chicago, it wasn't really like what I imagined. It wasn't really very flattering. And I wasn't really happy with the costume. So John Hughes we went out shopping and I picked out everything that I'm wearing pretty much. Most of it came from Ralph Lauren, the boots, the belt, the skirt, the top. That was all Ralph Lauren. I think the leather jacket that I wear in the beginning, I think is from somewhere else. But yeah, that whole thing is Ralph Lauren. I feel like she was really an aspirational swan, if you will. She really cared about clothes. There was a scene where I think just about everyone says why they got in detention, and my character ditched school to go shopping. So, shopping was really important to her. And I felt like she would be into Ralph Lauren. That was the kind of look that I think Claire went for. The original outfit was a lot more 80s, and I feel like the film would have looked a lot more dated had I not been wearing this costume. Okay, Pretty in Pink. The dress on the right was something that we had discussed, Marilyn and I, and again, it was not exactly what I had envisioned. And I wasn't really happy with the dress. Now I think it's sort of iconic and it's certainly different and very much of that time. But at the time I was sort of miserable, and I took a lot of my clothes from Pretty in Pink, but I left the prom dress because I hated it so much, but now I really wish I had it. The character had been written for me, the script had been written for me by John Hughes, so there were a lot of, I would say of all the characters that I played, I was the most like that. He took a lot of things, from my life, her love of vintage, her love of, fashion, and all of that was really just directly from me, and also my obsession with the color pink, because I was really into pink at the time. So yeah, I worked with Marilyn, and she chose so many great vintage pieces, and then other things that maybe we couldn't use vintage because we needed to have multiple outfits. If it was like an important or a long scene, they always have to have doubles or triples. So everything, if it was either vintage or it was made specifically to look vintage. Pickup artist. Yeah, this was designed by my good friend Colleen Atwood, who I had known since I was, I think, 14 years old. And now, of course, she's an amazing, Academy Award winning designer. But this was, I think, the second film that we had done together. I think this is pretty much what I wear during the whole film. This was my one outfit. So luckily I liked it, and it wasn't too hard to be in it for 2 months straight. The only other thing I wear, I think, in this movie is I wear an Elia dress in the first scene that you see, and I loved that, and I think I still have it somewhere. Okay, yeah, so I think that was towards the end when we went into a time warp and ended up in the 50s, which was really fun. Most of my clothes, most of the seasons were in clothes of today. And, Mary was a lawyer, so she, had some money, and, my clothes were always like pretty classic. Started out with more pale colors, and then Roberto, the showrunner, creator of the show, decided that he only wanted Mary to wear really bright colors. Really liked blue for some reason. He really adored blue. But yeah, but this was towards the end when we were in the 50s, and that was really fun. I really loved working with KJ Apa, who played my son. We really got along really well. I would say that almost all of my scenes were with KJ, and towards the end, Charlie Melton. And in the beginning with Luke, of course. But I loved watching these kids grow up, It was really kind of like a long run, and they started out as kids, and it was really, by the end, KJ had his own kid, and it was really nice watching these kids grow up. Dahmer. In this I'm playing Sherry Dahmer. I think, as you can see, anybody who has seen the show, it's, everything is very yellow. They wanted the sets and the costumes to be sort of like urine yellow, is what I heard. So, there were a lot of colors that I wouldn't necessarily wear. I think I can't tell, but I think I'm wearing the cross. She's always wearing like a little tasteful cross, just to sort of, show that she's a religious woman. They both are. I was really happy to be asked to be in a Ryan Murphy show. I think that he has fantastic taste in his cast. I mean, all of my scenes, just about all of my scenes in this were with Richard Jenkins, who is just a phenomenal actor, and we really immediately hit it off. And I feel like when you're working with actors of that caliber, it just kind of makes your job a lot easier. So I had a really good experience doing that. And then when I was asked to do Feud, of course, I was, really excited about that. And of course, excited because it was going to be shooting in New York, but all of my scenes were pretty much in Los Angeles. Yeah, there she is, Joanne Carson. They really wanted my character to be sort of like an anecdote to all of these, sort of uptight, very fashionable, chic women, like Babe Paley and, CZ Guest and Slim Keith and Lee Raddiswell. Joanne she wasn't really an official swan. She was really more his last friend. So they really wanted my clothing to be more colorful and kind of a bit more bohemian. So, which is why I have this kind of like, almost like caftan on. But I really liked that caftan, and I would totally wear that. All the clothes that I would want to wear were really worn by all of the women in New York. That's really much more my style, I would say, than Joanne's style. But I had a lot of fondness for my character. Thanks for watching. Let me know your favorite look in the comments below.